the hole in the ceiling, whatever the problem is, wherever the hole is, we're showing them that hole, asking them, hey, you going to keep it that way? You just going to leave it there?
The one thing we're not doing is we're not coming in and go, okay, this hole, we're going to fix it this way. Like, we're collaborating with them on what are the options to fix it and what's the best way we can fix it.
That's really where most of the sale happens here. Like, this is when they've decided. Ultimately, this is when they've just decided, and now they're just deciding if they're going to trust you the rest of the way.
And welcome back to another episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. Today, I'm here with Chris Beasy. How are you today, Chris?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm doing awesome. I can't wait to drop some gold nuggets for agents to write more business, man.
That's
exciting.
exciting.
That's what excites us.
I'm not going to lie. I'm very excited about this topic because we talked about passion this morning on just our kind of get-together call. And my passion is seeing people win and succeed. I love it. It just, that's what fuels me. And I don't care what it is, to be honest. It can be insurance. It can be basketball. It could be playground kickball. I don't care. But like seeing people win that don't necessarily have the experience or belief in themselves that they can win, and that realization, that moment.
Yes, it's that moment right there that you described.
It's incredible. It really is. So hopefully we're going to give a lot of you those moments today, because this topic is a game changer topic. Chris and I do a lot of coaching. We do a lot of mentorship. And the reason is because we care a little bit. Yeah. Right? No, we care. And we've a couple of the different topics that we've had in some of our coaching recently has been around increasing your closing rate in insurance sales. There's not one exact line that we can give you. There's not one nugget that is going to change everything, but it's more of an understanding. It's an understanding and a methodology of the sales process,
right? Which
is really cool.
And we didn't talk about this, but I am thinking we probably should give some reasonable expectations for closing ratios, because maybe you're closing and you're not that far off. That's the thing I see a lot of times. You're not that far, because the difference
3 feet from gold,
you're
right?
3 feet from gold, because it's a 2%, 5% difference. Yeah, that can change everything. So, if we're looking at, if you're doing like telesales and you're doing 100 digital leads a week, which I consider full time if you're trying to crank and make some good money, then I'd anticipate out of those, if you're learning, you're probably close to a 7%. We'll say 7%. That's my break glass. Like,
that's closing
off 100
per volume of lead, right?
Yeah, for the volume of the lead. So 7%. Okay. If you're getting towards where you're really getting good, you're getting 10 to 15%. You may even see higher. And, I see some agents are like, if I get them on the phone, it's probably a off of the conversations, it's close to like a 50% closing rate off of the conversations.
Right.
So if you're looking at total leads, and you're sitting at 3 to 5%, you're not far.
Now, one thing I want to ask you, Chris, when we're talking about this closing percentage on 100 digital leads full time, can you translate that into like lead cost? And the reason I want to say lead cost is you can get 100 leads somewhere that is essentially free, or you can get 100 leads that are higher buyer intent. So they both 100 leads. Yeah. But based upon the quality and the place that you get them, what type of quality you're looking for, and I guess more than anything, like what can you expect to spend for that closing?
I'm glad you asked. So whenever I have this lead conversation, the question is, do you have time or money? You're trying to get more time, but it's going to take money to get there. That time and money conversation depends on the how how engaged the client is in filling out the lead. So you might have some leads where they just put their name and their birthday and favorite color. Those are probably going to be a lower cost lead. You might have some leads that they fill out 16 different pieces of the form, and then they text your name, or they get a text reminder that you're going to be reaching out to them. It could be something like that.
Right.
So that range could range from, $7 a lead to $20 a lead, right? And if that's the case, just know this: your skill level when you're brand new at that $7 per lead, it's going to take some time to convert those. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some dials. You're going to have to be cranking. You're going to get more hangups, more I don't know what this is about. I didn't fill it out than you will on this type of lead. So it's a tricky balance. Like, can I take the risk and invest? If I said 20, what do we say, $20 a lead, and I'm getting 100 leads, then I might invest $2,000, but I'm giving myself a better chance to get to $10,000.
You're exactly right.
So,
yeah, and obviously having a lead source is massive when it comes to increasing your closing rate.
Right.
But let's assume we're good on the leads. Let's assume that we're not burning our leads with the fire, which was a very good podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
And let's assume we have a good source, we have a good volume of that. What are some things that we can dive into in order to increase our sales or increase our closing rate in the telesales platform, which everybody's jumping to and trying to figure out and trying to dance with a little bit?
Yeah, and I'll give you guys the cheat code for this. It's
square, triangle, down, left.
Left, right, ABBA, start. There are some people who have no idea what we just referenced. It's the Contra cheat code, guys. Anyway, as we're talking about this, the thing I want you to know, we teach this in our courses and coaching on a regular basis. You can check it out at lifeinsuranceacademy.org. We have a principled sales process that addresses everything that we're talking about here. So it's in a flow of how to have these conversations, and there's a specific way we teach it. Now, in saying that, the very, very first part of this, you have to keep somebody on the phone. Or you have to get in the door. It's one or the other. If you're knocking, you have to. Either way, there's a continuing the conversation, and that requires a connection.
Yes,
absolutely requires it. What do you see with that connection there, Zach?
Yeah, it's the connection is everything, and it's not just the initial introduction, the initial connection. We're not gaining entry to the home and then we're done. We're not earning the right to stay on the phone longer than 15 seconds and then we're done.
That's all you got.
It's deeper than that. It's not a task we want you to accomplish. It's a feeling we want you to feel. It's a feeling we want the client to feel. We want them to be comfortable with you. Especially if they're going to trust us later in the process to move forward and put a plan that costs money in to protect someone they love. And that's what it boils down to. So that connection, we have to connect with a purpose. And in order to do that sometimes, the other part of this maintaining connection is control. Because to connect is to put things together, but to connect with something and move, we need to have control. It's like a train, right? It's got an engine. You can connect all the pieces, but if there's no engine, if there's nobody controlling it or conducting it, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and there's it's funny in the telesales. It mirrors in some ways the door knock approach or the face-to-face approach. It's let's go ahead and sit there. The thing I say is directive tone. So you may be sitting, hey, we can go ahead and sit there. You're directing where this is headed. On the phone, go ahead and grab a piece of paper or something like that.
It just takes a few minutes.
Yeah. You have authority and you have the right to use that authority, and it's in your tone. On telesales, it's far more. I don't want to say it's more important because it's just as important on the face-to-face sale. It's far more
sensitive.
Yeah, it's more sensitive on the phone. So you have to implement that on the front side of that. directive. That's the tone we're looking for. I can move somebody to a better spot.
So directive is so important, and it's nicely, gently being able to tell them what to do, right? But it's in a respectful, gently way. Like I don't want to say it that way, but it is, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like the tone we use is you nurses out there. You get this? It's a nurse who's saying, "Hey, family, we need you to step outside real quick. I'm going to pull this curtain. We're going to make sure Mr. Jones has his medications. Mr. Jones, I need you to sit up." Like, it's okay. This is part of the process. She's a pro. She knows what she's doing. I'm just doing what they say.
Absolutely.
It communicates a professionalism and a history of success. You're a pro. You know what you're doing. I'm going to follow you.
Yep. And I think a big portion of this connection piece is also it's also going to be it's being relatable. And the only way you can do that is ask, how can I relate to the client? How can I find commonality? And it could be family dynamics. It could be lifestyle. It could be career. It could be hobbies. It could be whatever. But we have to ask questions and find connection through relatability.
Yeah.
And that's going to take effort. And the one of the biggest things I learned when doing that in this business, because I'm a natural introverted person, I didn't really want to talk to people I didn't know, was I don't have to be an expert on everything, but I can be a learner, right? Like if I've never done plumbing, and Mr. Chris, you're a plumber, right? Yeah. Like Mario and Luigi. Yes. But if you're like, I'm going to be curious about that, that's going to make you feel good. I'm going to make you feel as if you are the best plumber in the entire world. And I'm genuinely interested.
Yeah.
Genuinely interested is going to help with that connection. And we can talk about that regardless if it's fishing or whatever it is.
And that can happen on a face-to-face sale, a telesale, and the telesales process that may come a little later in the conversation.
Yeah.
But it brings a sense of empathy to your client where they feel understood. Not sold in any way. They feel understood. Like, hey, this guy actually cares.
And I'll tell you this, Chris, this leads us directly into our second point, our second gold nugget, our second methodology of closing more sales. And it's simply listen and educate, right? And I'm not talking about selling them anything.
Yeah.
It's simply to listen and to educate.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with folks and things that are said and not said. We do teach types of questions to ask. Like an example would be if you have Miss Betty and she's on the phone and you're talking about final expenses and she says something to the effect of, my mom left a mess. I was checking into that. What's this about? An agent will say, okay, well, let me get to it. But the one who's listening will say, a mess? Tell me about the mess. Just.
Yeah, how long did you pass?
Yeah.
Look at the words that are not said. And I would say the number one thing about listening in anything in life is for them to feel understood. Right? Like that is the biggest thing, because you can listen, you can hear, but what is it for? The whole point of this is, again, we're listening to build trust. Yes. How can they trust us is when they truly believe that we understand their situation. We understand where they came from.
And we care to understand.
And we understand what they're going to go through.
Right.
How do we show that?
Yeah.
Right? We show that with the active listening. We show that with our tonality. We show that with leaning in. We show that with asking follow-up questions and actually caring.
Right. And that education piece, it's amazing when you will find yourself getting a lot of I need to think about it because you didn't address things that they were thinking that they never had the opportunity to say. So, you might be sitting with Mrs. Jones and she's thinking to herself, well, I got this great thing in the mail that told me I could get $100,000 of life insurance for $15 a month. I'll talk to this nice boy. He sounds like a nice boy. I'll talk to him, but I'm probably going to go with that.
People need to process things. We need them to have an opportunity to make their own decisions. One of my favorite quotes in sales is, everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold. That's probably hit at least 30 podcasts already. Right.
Oh, yeah.
But that concept behind it, Adam says a lot more. Probably, if you all come up with the right number, maybe we'll give you a prize. But honestly, it makes so much sense to me. And when I hear that, the light bulb goes off. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold. So the moment we're trying to sell them or convince them or move them in a direction that they haven't made the decision on, you're going to get objections. You're going to get, I want to think about it. Yeah. We need to pray about it. Now's not a good time. Maybe next month. Right. They'll give you all these other smoke screens because they don't really want to be rude.
Yeah.
But it all comes down. So the question behind that is, why do people not buy? And the answer to that is, it's because they don't have enough education.
Right.
They don't know enough about it to make their own decisions.
And that is a direct, that's what Zig Ziglar says. He says people don't buy because they don't know, or they say no because they don't know. That's how he says it.
So it makes so much sense to me, Chris, that it's like a godsend, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I have these two things. Everybody wants to buy, but they don't want to be sold. So don't sell them. Give them an opportunity to buy. How do we give them an opportunity to buy? Well, they don't buy because they don't know, because they don't have enough education, so they don't know enough about it. Simple. Let's reverse that. Let's connect with them. Let's teach them and educate them the information. Ask them questions so it helps them process it, so then they can make their own decisions to move forward.
Yeah.
Are you ready to launch your insurance career? Excel Solutions is your go-to leader in life, accident, and health insurance pre-license training. Their cutting-edge e-learning platform is packed with rich content. Think interactive assessments, engaging videos, and customized learning paths, all tailored to your learning style. Being students ourselves, we've trusted Excel now for years to deliver top-notch training, offering high pass rates. Their streamlined prep review courses and the exam simulator are really your secret weapons to nailing the state exam the very first time. Now, you thought it couldn't get any better. Well, it just did. Life Insurance Academy listeners, you receive an epic 50% discount, reducing the regular course fee from $199 to only $99. So, all you have to do is use discount code LIA at checkout at liapodcast.org/Excel. Now, Excel spells XCEL. So don't think about it any longer. Dive headfirst into your insurance career with Excel Solutions' premier pre-license training with that exclusive 50% discount just for you. Get the code, get licensed, and excel in your insurance career.
This and this actually carries on to the next one. That statement, people say no because they don't know. Mm-hmm. Because my pendulum moved when I wasn't selling to this statement, and I thought, well, okay, then people need to know more about the company. But it wasn't so much the product that I was selling that they didn't need to know. It's good to let them know A-rated, all that stuff, all the writers, blah blah blah. But they didn't know their options. That's part of it. Mm-hmm. But in a lot of cases, this is the one that changed everything.
Yes.
They didn't know their own situation. They did not know it. Bingo. And they just been living their lives this whole time. And they're in their fishbowl, living in their fishbowl until they see something happen to somebody else. Like my cousin died and this is what happened. Or my friend passed away. This is what happened. And then they look around and they're like, oh, maybe I should have this conversation, but they still don't know the specifics about it.
They have this vulnerability inside of them, and they're worried and concerned about it, but they don't have words for it. Mm-hmm. They don't know why it's so big or what it entails. The only thing they know is there may be a surface level need that's just scratching the surface of the iceberg of, I don't have anything in place, or I'm not sure what I have, or it may not be the right one. But there's this massive iceberg under the ocean that's hanging there, and that's what you're referring to here.
Yeah, and it's discovering, addressing, and raising the stakes for your client. We call this emotional excavation, of being able to ask them some questions where they can reveal, where they can look at their situation and hear themselves tell you what this looks like. So, Mrs. Smith, God forbid if nothing were in place and you were to pass tomorrow, what would it look like for Timmy to go in the funeral home and have to pay for this? What would that look like? How would he pay for it?
I'm not real sure. I haven't thought about it too much.
Yeah. So pause. Yeah. And we could keep going with this.
Oh, absolutely. The magical thing is in a situation, in an example that we're talking about, Chris, is you have to give them that pause, because at this moment, that's now further and more than they've ever thought about what will happen or how their grandson or their son would feel having to deal with that emotional burden, the financial burden, the logistics of putting it all together, where to go, who to call, all of that. Like, they haven't thought about that. Our clients haven't thought any further than, I don't have anything or I may have the wrong thing.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
Right. Yeah, those are the two. And I say, like, when we're entering this conversation and they filled something out and you're working a lead and you don't know if it's I need to check into this, or, this is really bad, I need to take care of this. We don't know on the spectrum what that is. We have to give them the opportunity to tell them. And I can't sit here and tell Zach, well, you should have done this. You should have taken care of your family. You should do this right now. You know that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, although I may feel that it's the right thing to do, I'm not going to do it with you, and I'm not going to do it right now.
That's right. He's going to back away through that wall, right through the wall. His heels will dig in, and maybe you felt that way. Matter of fact, I've asked.
There's a difference in this emotional excavation and convicting them.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've asked some hard questions, Zach. Hard questions with people, and I've gotten an application, and they've said to me, well, I had somebody else talk to me about this, but they were really pushy. I was like, man, I felt like I was being pushed. I was pushing more than I felt comfortable with sometimes. Right. But really, it's like, for me, it's like putting their hand on their back.
It's the permission to push.
Yeah, we're just moving forward, letting them see the hole in the ceiling, whatever the problem is, wherever the hole is, we're showing them that hole, asking them, hey, you going to keep it that way? You're just going to leave it there? What happened?
The biggest thing with that, Chris, and we're talking about this hole in the ceiling, and I've literally been in homes with holes in the ceiling. And the one thing we're not doing is we're not coming in and go, okay, this hole, we're going to fix it this way, that way it's going to cost money. It's us coming alongside them together and figuring out, like, yeah, this is a hole. How did it get there? We want to fix it. Like, we're collaborating with them on what are the options to fix it and what's the best way we can fix it. And it's to their idea and want and desire to be able to fix it.
That's really where most of the sale happens here. Like, this is when they've decided. Ultimately, this is when they've decided, and now they're just deciding if they're going to trust you the rest of the way. Like, you can still lose it.
100%.
With a lack of competence and knowledge, you can lose it because trust is something that's established but maintained throughout the.
So let's before we hit our fourth one here, I'll kind of do a quick little recap here. So number 1 was to maintain connection and control. Number 2 was to listen and educate. Yeah. Number 3 was to discover, raise, and address the stakes. Right, and now we're moving to number 4. Which is the idea of the assistant buyer, which is the idea that we're going to imagine it this way. We're going to support them, and we're also going to assume the sale, which is number 4. Number 4 is assume the sale, but how we assume the sale is to come alongside of them, come with them, get on this journey together. It's their idea, it's their problem, it's really their solution with the options we provided. But now we are their backup force. We are their help. We are that encouraging.
We're the guide.
We're the guide. We're that guide with them, but they're leading the way here.
Yeah,
right?
They're the hero. That's for sure. Yeah, we're giving them a chance to do that. And one of the strengths I had, I'll speak to this. These two, and then I'll let you talk about 2. Okay, one is keep moving. That was I won't say it was a mistake. It was something I had learned, and I felt like even with objections that I'll figure out objections someday. I'll just keep going forward.
So don't hear them. It's not a big deal. Like,
that was my take. It wasn't a big deal.
Chris, I don't think we can just steamroll over that, because that is, it's so easy and it's so simple, but so many people don't.
Yeah.
So many people are literally like, they're approaching the stop sign, riding the brake, and they're just like, are you going to give me an objection? Because I'm ready to stop.
Yeah, it's like, more of a yield.
Yes, that's a perfect example. You're just yielding.
And I'm saying it was a mistake early on, but it wasn't, because I didn't know my objections and rebuttals. I didn't know them, so I would just keep going. I've had people say to me, "So you're going to keep going?" I was like, "Yeah." You requested the information. So I just kept going. And also filling out the application. That is such a huge piece of this. And they're expecting you to. They're expecting you to do that. They requested information. You show them the process. They're expecting to fill out something to solve a problem. And if you don't, it's weird.
Our job is literally help fill their vulnerabilities, right? Like fill their gaps. Like we there's problems there. We're here to provide solutions.
Yeah, that's it. So,
but why is that so hard?
Because we have a perception. This is what I call it. I call it reverse empathy. And what's happening is we're putting ourselves in their position. So how would we feel in that position? Instead of saying, how do they feel where they are? And looking through their eyes. We're looking through our eyes through them. It doesn't work. We have to look at it from their perspective and realize, in most cases, you and I, Zach, we're used to, we learned it in school, we learned it in college, we learned it at a job. We're used to being directed. And to not have the direction, we feel lost. A lot of people do. So if you take them that way and you stop and you just look at them, they're like, I don't know if I can trust this person. You lost trust. It doesn't feel like you lost trust, but they're going to tell you, I need to think about it. That's exactly what they're going to say.
I want to ask you a little question on that, Chris. And this is like the natural filtration of sales. Okay, we'll call it that. It sounds cool, right? If we're mailing out or sending out or generating a bunch of leads, which is in a way of asking permission to talk to them about insurance, if you will, right?
Okay.
Our percentage of that is very low, right? What would you say it is?
Well, I mean, direct mail is like 1%. I don't know digitally. Probably close. Probably
under
maybe
5,
less.
maybe.
Yeah,
but the thing is, if we're sending it out to all these qualified people that we know are in the same demographic, and if you and I had an opportunity to sit with everybody that received a lead, regardless if they filled it out or not, is there a way to help them in the home? Not saying they're going to do it, but probably high 90% of them, right? So that's crazy. So we ask permission, it filters down. If we went to the door or got on the phone and the first thing we did was, now, are you still interested in this to fill it out?
You would write some applications, believe it or not.
Probably, right?
Probably. I'm not saying you'd write a bunch.
If we ask permission again at the door or at the beginning of the phone call, it's going to filter that more than if we didn't and we followed our script or our training,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So now we're going from, let's say we mail out, let's use the example, we'll mail out 2,000 pieces of mail, we'll get 20 leads back, we go to 20 doors or make 20 phone calls, and we ask again on that, we may get 1 or 2, right? And then throughout the sale that we're moving through, every time we stop and like, are you sure you want to buy insurance?
Yeah.
Every time we continuously ask permission, it filters out.
I see what you're saying. Yes.
Every time.
Yeah.
When we know if they weren't interested, they wouldn't have filled it out. There wasn't a vulnerability, wouldn't have caught their eye in their subconscious brain that there's a void they need to take care of.
Correct.
Right? So the thing is we have to be the professionals. We have to see their problem more than they see their problem in order to do that.
And to your point, Zach, the filtering, you will only, if that's your approach and how you're doing it, and it's in the asking permission model, you will only get 1 or 2 applications out of that. Those are the laydowns that anybody would have gotten. I could have tied, no offense, I mean, I could have tied it to my dog's collar and put it through the yard, and they might have picked it up and wrote the application.
Here's a great example, okay? My man Chris is one of the most creative people out there and fun to work with. He put cheap burial insurance on a sign and paid some kids to
in
literally
in a different city,
paid some kids to just put these signs, cheap burial insurance and his phone number. That's all it said on a bunch of street corners.
Right.
And just to give you an example, and you wrote quite a bit of business of people just calling you, but when they called you, you're like, oh yeah, you saw the sign, you want insurance? They're like, yeah, I want insurance. Okay, this is what it's going to be. Like it wasn't the same type of situation, right?
No, I was either going to take it or leave it. It wasn't a big expense. It was easy. Yeah.
So the point is you can pretty much do anything and you're going to get a couple apps.
Correct. Yes.
But we want to go above and beyond that. The thing's about increasing the closing percentage.
That's the whole point.
Right?
Yeah.
Is beyond that.
There's so much in the middle there where most people live. That's where people live, in the middle. And our goal is to help them meet their needs. I know we want to wrap. We want to give you guys those takeaways. Again, number 1, connect and maintain control. Number 2, listen and educate. Number 3, discover, address, and raise the stakes. Number 4, move forward and assume the sale. I hope this helps you close more sales. I don't want to guarantee, but it's pretty close. If you implement 2 of these, it will change your game. So we would love to hear that in the comments below. And if you value this, share it. If you value it, throw it on those other socials. Throw it on the Insta Faces and the Facegrams or the LinkedIns. I guess you can share this stuff and also subscribe. We love you guys. We hope it brings you value. We'll see you on the next Life Insurance Academy podcast. Thanks.